Can I respond? Because I got an email this morning as I was getting off the plane to come to this conference from a pastor in Des Moines, Iowa, Ashworth Road Baptist Church in Des Moines, Iowa. And it was sort of a testimony, really, of how his church has become involved in the Cross Creek Indian Reservation, which is in Buffalo County, which is one of the 20 poorest counties in America, 70% unemployment. And his testimony was that his church had become, it's 6 hours to the reservation, but that his church has become involved, and it's a small church. They have 100 on Sunday morning. And he said over the last 6 months, we've had 50 of our members personally involved in that Indian reservation. And his point was, we think we're doing some good, but it is transforming us. Here's my point. I think people like us can do 2 or 3 things. One, I think we can help understand that this engagement with the poor changes us. I think we can provide practical ways for churches like that one to have a hands-on involvement. Because all of us are in a journey of learning. And probably you're not going to advocate for the farm bill at the very beginning. You're going to start by learning about why people are poor and how they're poor, and you have to get your hands dirty. You have to get involved. So I think we as leaders can help pastors like the ones you're talking about, as much as possible, connect with a personal involvement and then encourage them, give them maybe support groups that helps them learn more, so that in their journey then they do get to a point when they're calling their senator or they're calling their congressman or they're getting their church members to write Congress people. It's a journey.
You know, we get boxed in little enclaves and areas, and we're unaware of the needs of the communities that may be around us. I would strongly imagine that within 10 miles of where you are, you can find some situations that might not reflect your congregation, but would also be involved in drug use, some form of poverty or delinquency, or some counterproductive involvement or condition that would merit and certainly need the attention of your particular congregation. But you've got to get up and out, look around, and explore not just your immediate vicinity, but the areas all around you. In the area of policy and how do you advocate and influence governments to do things that are desperately needed, I think that is a real crisis, because most of us are motivated when we become aware of a need, of a negative condition about which we must act. And I think that we do need to more effectively communicate the prevalence of poverty in our nation and how it is manifested in various areas. And then we need to understand what policies are going to make a difference. What is it that we want to do? And I think that all of us agree we need to do something, but when we start getting down to the details of what it is that we need to do, we don't agree, or we don't understand, or we don't know what the solution to a particular problem is. So a lot of work is needed. And again, we need to come to organizations like Bread for the World to convene us so that we can dialogue and understand what it is we're advocating.
One of the things we're doing is just, I know that immigration within the Latino community is a big thing still, even though the media is not talking about it much. So we're hosting a forum this year, and it's called Immigration and Education. So we're using that to convene people in our community, but at the same time taking an opportunity to explain to them what's going on politically in this country. And then hosting another forum later on in the year that will help them understand better just the whole process. So we're trying to educate our folks. That's basically what we're doing.
Can I speak to your question? I think the greatest power the church has is twofold. One is prophetic. We've got to say from the pulpits and all of the ways the pulpit means that poverty is a moral issue. It is a moral issue. And we have to talk about that. And from a Christian perspective, we have to tell our people, biblical, this is why it's a moral issue. And then I think from a pastoral perspective, we have to nurture our congregation in understanding how that, how does that then form them? What does that mean for me and for us? So it's both pastoral and prophetic. I think the greatest role that we can play is to do what the church is supposed to do, be prophetic and be pastoral. I think we'll make a mistake if we become a political organizing group, or if we're going to rally around a certain candidate. I think that's the death knell for the church.
Let me try and close on one thing. I've worked in and out of conservative politics now for 20 years. And I will say that one of the greatest needs in politics is an organization, some organization that can represent the voice of the poor. Because right now, any politician who makes a commitment to poverty is making a moral commitment, right? It's the ultimate judgment of a candidate's character, whether or not he follows through on his commitment to poverty, because at the end of the day, no one else is going to hold his feet to the fire. Nobody who really matters in terms of the people who populate the Office of Political Affairs in any particular place. There has to be some way to mobilize people who care on behalf of the poor. Because unless that takes place, unless politicians can hear in the ways that they really care about at the end of the day, that their feet are going to be held to the fire for how they care about poverty, unless that happens, it's going to be very, very, very hard to make any kind of substantive difference. And it needs to be, this sort of a bipartisan approach, but one that's taken seriously in each party. It has to have muscle. So, for whatever it's worth, I'll say that. And I'll also say, the people here on this panel are extraordinary people. I just hope you'll take advantage and talk to them when we're done. I hope this is a conversation that can continue. And I thank you for coming, and I thank all of the panelists here.